Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination fly. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair. Come on down and get your geek to geek at the Sci-Fi Center. We got almost everything a geek could want at the Sci-Fi Center. If you name it, we got it. Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and everything in between at the Sci-Fi
Happy Thursday. About 5 minutes left of Thursday, and then we're right into Friday. Welcome to the Midnight Express. And like I said, as we move on from this week to the next week, we are going to start, opening up the show with some kind of topic. Not necessarily news, because I'm not a news channel, and I really don't care most of the time what goes on, unless it's something that really directly affects us, which I think tonight's opening topic does. I'm your host, William, from the Sci-Fi Center, coming to you from my little home office, not the Sci-Fi Center itself. And along with me for this very short ride is Brad Kern of comicbook.com.
Everybody?
I wonder if the notifications go up. Don't care. We're not going to be on that long. Hello, Clint. I can tell the notifications haven't gone up because I haven't gotten mine yet. So I delayed it for 5 minutes to see if it popped up. It has not for me. So what were you about to say?
Also the topic too. I mean, because I kind of saw this in passing, so but I didn't get the whole gist of it. So you're probably going to be there's going to be an instance where you're going to be probably more knowledgeable about the topic in the thumbnail than I am.
Yeah, it doesn't mean as much. I saw a lot of people speculating on what this might mean. Ultimately, for what I'm into, like DC Comics, DC IPs, things like that, it's not going to mean much. And I'll when I jump into it, I'll read why. So let's go ahead and just jump into it so I can get it out of the way. All right. So breaking news from CNBC's David Faber. Warner Brothers Discovery moving towards splitting company. Not something new. They've been hinting at that for almost 2 years, and I've been thinking about that. That was illogical. All right. Following the unofficial candidates. Okay, David Faber. What Warner Brothers is moving towards, though, is a split. It's become relatively. This is a transcript. That's why it reads weird. Relatively clear to me that from many conversations that I've had, that we could get some sort of announcement in the not too distant future that they're planning to try to split the company. What would that split look like? Well, most likely, or almost. Hold on for a second. Get the background noise. Sorry. Well, most likely or most definitely is linear cable networks, and then you have the studio coupled with Max. How would you go about doing that? Remember, internally we reported on this previously that they've already done all the reappropriation necessary. So they were doing this before. They were separating things. What would end up basically happening is that the cable networks like the Food Channel, TNT, TBS, they would become their own company. Now, the shareholders that currently hold WBD stock would still be the shareholders of that company, but it would have its own hierarchy. It would have its own infrastructure. Even though in order to start that company, it would take the shares being offered to the people who currently are shareholders of WBD.
Of their damn near worthless stock right now.
Yeah, but and it's kind of because it's a drag on it. Now, what would end up happening is this will be a whole new company. It will be called something else. It would not be governed by the same rules that would be governing Warner Brothers Discovery because, like I said, that would have their own board. It would have their own chairman of the board, and it would have their own CEO. And from that point on, anything can happen with those collection of networks and companies. They can sell themselves. They can buy someone. They can merge with someone. Comcast could come in and merge with them. Anything can happen because it would no longer be part of Warner Brothers Discovery, and they would be two different revenue generators. Now, why would you do this? Well, because the companies would be looked at and operate as two separately functioning things instead of one that is drawing revenue and another one that's a liability. May not be a liability on its own or as a merging asset with someone else, but you'd have to separate the companies in order for it to do that. Now, for this show, the purposes of this show, science fiction, horror, fantasy, comics, all that. What would that mean for the DCIP and DC Studios? Well, Warner Brothers Studios and HBO or Max and HBO would be one company. And there is no way in hell that the DCIP would be separate from those companies. There's just no way. So whatever the Food Channel and TBS and TNT and CNN, all those other ones would spin off and become, DC would not be a part of that. DC would always be part of whatever is the film division because those are IPs that they use, obviously, to make money off of, and it would make no sense. So it doesn't mean much for as far as the IPs and everything goes, but I did get a lot. I did, like I said, everybody and their mother sent me this article in my inbox, so that's why I put it on the show tonight.
Yeah.
Not because it's going to make a massive difference in what we talk about, but I just wanted to answer that question because it was a big topic. So that's why it's being done is because linear TV and cable TV is going away across the board.
Yeah.
Not just Warner Brothers, Comcast, everybody that deals with normal cable TV with the element of streaming. Most of these guys are in bed with the streamers anyway, so it makes no sense for them to spend the overhead on something. Ad revenue is not what it was before. Your more stable model is going to be the subscription and the streaming service.
Well, and I mean that's kind of with what people pay out for subscription, and that's certainly kind of. I mean, I think for both of us, that's kind of the case. What people pay out for their total, streaming subscriptions. That's kind of like it's. You add it all up, it's like it approximates what like a normal like cable bill would cost. So it's just kind of like you're just swapping one cable bill for another.
And now there are some situations like I have cable and I have all the streaming networks. Now, some of them are made a lot easier to use if you are a subscriber. If I have ESPN if I didn't have the bundle, but I had ESPN on my cable, then I automatically have access to ESPN on my app, even without the separate charge. HBO Max, you don't have to have. Well, if you have HBO, you basically have access to everything HBO Max has. So in that tandem, it works. But if you are somebody who wants to cut the cable completely, which is a lot of people lately, then if you don't want to be tethered to a cable bill, then this is what you can do. And this is what a lot of people are doing. Me, it's a tax write-off. So
yeah, same for me.
Yeah, for everybody else, it's a liability. So, if you can get these bundles, if you can get Hulu and Disney Plus for a $27 commercial-free bundle, then you get Fox, you get all these things. And now more than ever, these streaming services, they all of them, including Netflix now, have live sports of some type. From the absurd to the actual run-of-the-mill NHL, NBA. And you had Amazon now has a game of the week. You have Peacock with a game of the week. One of the most highest rated things that Peacock did was a Buffalo Bills Miami football game. So it's all starting to make they Comcast, Universal, they all are in bed with each other, but they want a smaller bed to operate in. So that's why this is happening. But yeah, I got this question mainly because this is when I talk about Warner Brothers and stuff being sold. Now, here's another thing, and this has nothing to do with the article, and this is just pure speculation on my part. So, you can dismiss it as bullshit like I do most speculation myself. If Warner Brothers was indeed Warner Brothers Discovery, and I'm talking about the remaining
the part that's not getting split off.
The part that's actually the important part, the part, the studio, DC Studios, HBO and Max. If you did want to sell those, they become a less liable, smaller, more consumable package for a buyer to buy. Because if I'm looking at your situation right now, there's a lot of stuff on there that as a purchaser I don't need, and I'm just going to have to consolidate the debt and all the debt and the actual the operation cost of these networks that aren't drawing anymore. So if you take this and split this up, either portion of this company becomes a much more digestible thing to buy. Now, I have no inside information on whether that's going to happen or not. I'm just looking at the fact that we're now, if this does happen, we are now dealing with a much smaller Warner Brothers Discovery that somebody could purchase, and and it would be of value to them.
Well, and actually, too, to kind of tack onto that, and this is also speculation, or maybe it's more like an extrapolation of your speculation. But when you talk about like you cut the company in half like this, and either side of it becomes for like a potential buyer, potential like new parent company, it becomes more attractive because there's there's less for them to have to absorb from that. Something like this, does that do you read that as a signal that this is like the opening salvo of like a potential sale or buyout?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say because, to be honest with you, their stock, the reason why they made this move or they pushed forward with this move is because their quarterly earnings came out and they missed their projections. They had a quarterly or annual loss of $450 million. Now, they did make money in other places, but if you actually read the corporate breakdown, the parts where they made money were the studio was profitable and HBO Max was profitable. So, but what hurt their overall report was these other things that were not. A lot more people are leaving cable. When you have a smaller audience, your ad revenue isn't there, and that's what cable TV. A lot of subscriptions and ad revenue are the two biggest revenue generators. And if those aren't there, now you're looking at a quarterly earnings thing that includes those liabilities. So when their stock was affected and when they came up short, they figure, okay, as a company we're coming up short, but as a smaller company, we wouldn't come up short like that. So
Yeah, but that's kind of where and we've talked about this before. I mean, we both said it's like another buyer or another parent company is like just in the general future anyway, and everything you're talking about there, like this is the benefit of splitting the company up like this that that lends itself to something like that. That's where I kind of like my mind goes, okay, is this like step one of that? It's like that's without being behind closed doors,
There's no indication that that they're doing anything other than offloading what they consider to be dead weight.
It could be step one, but we're not behind closed doors. We just don't.
We would just be guessing. What did I miss? Did you?
Oh yeah,
part
I mean,
one of
it's well, I mean,
what does this have to do with Jeff? Why would you bring up Jeff Johns?
It's Batman 2 related.
What is he talking about?
I mean, there's an article floating around. And this is not one of the trades, but I did see it. I knew you were gonna. That's why I didn't send it to you because I mean this falls under the
rumors and bullshit. Okay, is it from a credible source?
It's from, well, I don't know who it's from exactly, but they're referencing Production Weekly, which is like the database that like lists. Okay, here's the slate of movies that are set to go in front of the cameras by by this calendar year. And
okay,
what's coming from that is that Matt Reeves had.
I would indulge this, but I need more than that. I need more than when you put something like in the chat, the name that you bring up should be instantaneously something I've heard of, someone I've heard of, or some things I've heard of. I don't want to dive into this without something credible. Do we have, and I'm asking you this for anybody in the chat, do we have something credible, or is this just speculative bullshit that's going to make me look stupid? I have enough. Listen, I can do that on my own. William can make him and the Sci-Fi Center look really dumb without help. But is this something legitimate that we have somebody?
I will say that to Fourth's point, that this is without me like giving my thoughts. Like, but and by the way, like the report is the report is that Matt Reeves has left. He's not directing the Batman Part 2. That's what
that's an important thing to put out there. Who is saying
I will say for that, and now this is without like giving any like particular stance on this, in any particular professional opinion on this. I will say I have seen other outlets pick up and run with that story and saying not saying that it's confirmed, but saying that we are seeing reporting that Matt Reeves is no longer directing the Batman Part 2.
Okay.
Take that for whatever you will. I'm just saying
I can't take it at all. That's what I mean. I'm not going to take it at all because I don't know where it's coming from. I need a name and a face. Otherwise, we join these other places that I really work hard not to be like. So, we'll be on air for another, 30 minutes or whatever. If anybody has something legitimate, not a nameless, faceless source from under the something like that, because that's not a small thing that you're putting out. That would be a relatively sizable thing that you're putting out. So, I would rather wait, and I'm not saying that it's completely false, but I would rather wait until I have something more because, like I said, I don't feel like putting on the Jackass costume. So let's avoid that until we actually have something to talk about.
Aaron says, yes, we got our first American Catholic Pope today with Pope Leo. So yes, I guess
from Chicago, which
is.
I'm gonna. This has absolutely nothing to do with science fiction, horror, fantasy, but I am going to recognize that obviously that's a huge moment for any American. The papacy is a franchise that even everybody knows who the Pope is, so that's fine. And from Chicago, they got an American dude from Chicago, so I guess NBC is going to add Chicago Pope to their Chicago Hope.
The memes have been just left and right today.
Yeah, and so that's fine. That was huge. I was very quick that they came to that.
Yeah,
there you go.
It was a faster turnaround. You selected the new Pope than I thought it was going to be.
And then once I learned about him, though, given his positioning, he's a very important person in the church.
He's
he's not a little guy as far as
Yeah, exactly. And in my lifetime, it's like I've seen a Pope resign, which was the first time that happened in 500 years.
600 years.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I remember when that happened. That just blindsided everybody. And then Pope Frank, as my friend Ashley likes to call him, she's actually started down the Catholic road in the last couple of years. And it's like, welcome to the club. But I was dug that she gave him that name Pope Frank, and he was a very beloved pope. So hopefully Pope Leo is a successor who can really.
I don't. Put the Pope on the ban list or the Matt Reeves thing.
No, I think he's talking about Matt Reeves.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even. I mean, we already pretty much have a standard. I think we've set for the show that we really. I like I said, not saying that this is on. We could find out tomorrow that this is all true, but right now no one's giving me anything, and this is not. All the shit that I get dumped in my inbox. This would have been like number one in my inbox. I mean, if this was somebody legit.
Usually these kinds of things, I'm the one to DM and it's like neither of them came from me today.
So
kind of going back to the main topic here and say, catch-up films, they're like getting big ever since they got.
They won't. Once they do that, now you're talking about a different debt structure as well, because some of that debt would be broken up with the company. Not all that debt would stay with Warner Brothers Discovery, because some of that debt was accumulated as WBD too, because they spent money beyond that. So that's another thing that may make even if it's just the other one, the off-brand popular thing, because like I said, on its own, it may not draw anything, but there are libraries and stuff that are involved in that thing. I mean, digital libraries that something like Comcast could absorb, and IPs that they could absorb that are of that brand. So yeah, and plus, like I said, Warner Brothers Studios does a lot more than just make movies too. So
Yeah.
they do
Well,
TV shows.
and another thing you've also said, another one from Aaron here. This is it sounds like what Viacom and Paramount did at the end of the early 2000s. Yeah, I would say so. But like another thing you've talked about, and this kind of brings it back to like again, when it comes to Warner Brothers, like the topic that most immediately relates to everything we talk about on here, is DC. And I mean their general like film and television division, also, but I mean DC kind of like leads that on as far as like what Sci-Fi Center talks about. But like something else you mentioned, like, and we've talked about in here, we've talked about off airs. I mean, you've thought about, or you've said like even with like this not immediately impacting anything DC related, you've also said like you foresee them like licensing stuff out.
Yeah, because it's money. It's money. I don't think people are like, well, no, they're not going to do that because James Gunn is not fucking God. James Gunn is doing.
He's not the Pope either.
He's not. And not only that, James Gunn works for somebody who works for somebody who works for somebody.
Which, by the way, something else I think we also.
Hold on, let me finish my thought because I'm going to forget it because I'm old. Okay. There's no reason why they couldn't do a transaction that made them profit and have it not affect James Gunn. People are small-minded when they think of this shit. Every time they go, well, they're going to let James Gunn cook. I'm like, so what? So what? You think the kitchen's so small, only one guy can fit in it? Think about a restaurant. We only got one cook cooking. What the fuck was wrong with you guys? So no, I mean, I think eventually some of these things are going to be profitable in ways that, it's just a transaction. I mean, fans try to get their heads wrapped around a transaction as fans and just as a consumer and a business person. These things happen all the time. So go ahead.
Yeah, but like also, I think one thing I really would love to see put. I mean, we can't unilaterally do it on here, but one thing I'd love to see put to rest is, I mean, relating to that and also to other topics is so often I see like it parroted about saying like DC Studios is not a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. It's like, yes, it is.
It is.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, they say, well, Warner Brothers, DC Studios is his own thing. Okay, so you're right and wrong about that. Yes, it is. It is his own studios. And as a studio head, when you assume that position, there are going to be things when you draw up your contract to take the job that are going to be guarantees that you get. But at the end of the day, it is DC Studios is owned by Warner Brothers Discovery. David Zaslav is James Gunn's boss, and the chairman of the board and all those other people are David Zaslav's boss. It's just like any other corporate structure.
I mean, DC Studios is to Warner Brothers, what Marvel Studios is to Disney, or what Lucasfilm is to Disney.
Now, that being said, once you grant somebody a studio, you generally did that for a reason because you were either incapable or you didn't want to do it. So yeah, you're right in one sense, but no, structurally, no. He's still an employee of Warner Brothers Discovery. And he's still answerable to David Zaslav ultimately.
Well, that's the reason I bring that up is because I've seen it, from certain corners like parroted so much that like David Zaslav would never and could, or anybody who would be in his position like would never and could never pull rank because it's like DC Studios is totally autonomous now. It's like,
okay,
no, it's not.
It's not totally autonomous, but there are certain aspects like right now. It's in the first, let's say the first 3 or 4 movies that James Gunn probably worked it into his contract that he gets a certain amount of autonomy and a certain amount of budget and a certain amount of this and that guaranteed. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth his time to take the job, even for the first 1 or 2 years that he would have it. So there are certain things he probably worked into his contract. Beyond that, once those movies are made go out, they are all properties of Warner Brothers Discovery. He is an employee of Warner Brothers Discovery. But there are certain things at a studio, just like Feige. Feige works for Bob Iger, but Bob Iger he has certain things worked into his contract where him and Bob Iger has to negotiate certain things. But Bob Iger could still fire him if he wanted. Not that it would ever happen, but he'd have to pay him out and buy out all that. But it's still
a pain in the ass. But I mean, they've done it,
But it's still a corporate structure. They did it with Chapek. They fired Chapek and paid his ass out. So yes and no. Yes, there is autonomy. But at the end of the day, as things go on, it's still a corporate structure.
Yeah, it's not insulated in such a way where it's untouchable by the larger company.
I mean, you for the most part, if you're running it right, yes. If it's being ran right and you did your due diligence, which David Zaslav did not do, he tripped over his dick. But if you did your due diligence and you got the right guy, 9 times out of 10, you step away because you put him there for a reason. All right, the Matt Reeves of not real. Okay, I'm gonna try to read it. The Matt Reeves news of
I think
not
I think
real.
he's saying it's like the studio is like, or has not issued a statement to like
That's
debunk.
just, they don't have to. They don't have to. Listen, they not studios and companies and entities in business and in general don't always respond to bullshit just because it's not true. They figure they put out the news, and if you choose to listen to other outlets, that's on you. But just because they haven't retracted it doesn't mean one thing or another. Now, I'm not saying that this might not be true. I just haven't heard it from somebody that I want to use my platform. I work really hard to make this platform something that's not sleazy rumor speculation bullshit. And then we have to retract it. So if it's not true or certain parts of it are not true, I look like an asshole, and then our credibility goes down. That's why I'd rather wait. I'd rather be last to the game than wrong at the game. So I'll wait, and then if this fleshes out too, we'll talk about it. But if it never comes to fruition, then we'll just dismiss it like we do everything else.
But okay, so going back to the kind of the topic we started out with, where did I have this up here from? Like, you should have a fly pope. I mean,
All right, listen. We acknowledge that there's a pope has been chosen. Outside of that, that's Leo the 14th. Have a great run as pope, but you have no place on the Sci-Fi Center unless you are like featured in a science fiction horror movie where you're a zombie or something. Other than that, congrats to all the Catholics out there. You got a pope, got an American pope. Seems like a swell dude. I like his views on things. I knew who he was prior to this because he was involved in the organization of the previous pope. So he's been at this. He's 69 years old. He's been at this for a while. And if I know who he is, I'm not Catholic. If I know who this guy is, probably a good, credible dude. Yeah. How you doing, Chuck?
How's it going, Chuck?
Once again, Grace Randolph. Once again, I'm not. I don't watch her show. I can't stand her voice. I don't do that kind of thing. Yeah. And as far as Matt Reeves' health goes, like that, once again, that's been another thing that's been speculated. And I don't care how 99.9% that true that may be. Matt Reeves has not made any statement about his health.
I'll go ahead and say we may have heard, indications of that ourselves, which we've, I guess now that's kind of out in the open, we can go and say we've heard indications. I mean, again, the veracity of that, we can neither confirm nor deny, but and we kept that to her because that was not our information to share.
Yeah. And if I can't confirm or deny it, I leave myself open to looking real dumb. I leave myself open to Brad and inviting Brad into an atmosphere where we're on the same screen. Now we both look dumb. And I know it gets clicks. I know it's really cool to throw some shit in a thumbnail and be like, wow, look at this. And it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. It doesn't matter. But here's the thing. Not only do I not want to be wrong and look stupid, I don't want to waste my time talking about something if it ultimately ends up not being true. I got other things we can talk about. We literally pull shit out of our anal orifices on a nightly basis with fucking bears and tigers and stuff,
gorilla
people,
and moose fights,
and serial killers and ghosts.
Last
and
night was
else.
funny, guys.
So we don't need. I don't do rumors and speculation. Really. I just don't. There's enough channels that do it. They're better at it than I am. If we have Matt Reeves saying something, or if we have, James Gunn, Warner Brothers Discovery saying something, or somebody, a representative, then we can run with it. Otherwise, I don't see the fun in that.
One thing I will kind of tack on all that, and this is necessarily about the Matt Reeves stuff specifically. This is more kind of a general thing. Like, at what phase when there is like rumor or speculation of like, and it can be for something like good or bad. I'm not saying like the nature of the rumor or the scooping or what have you has to like lean one way or the other, but for you personally, like at what phase does that become loud enough or widespread enough that you would be willing to like devote a portion of the show like seriously breaking it down?
I would have to hear it from that person or their representative, or I would have to see something happen as a result that could be undeniable. So if Warner Brothers were to say, we've moved on, if Warner Brothers would have come out and make a statement, or DC Studios would have come out and make a statement that this particular person, whoever it was no longer part of this project for reasons of, that they don't want to disclose for them. And then I hear an amalgam of that person and their representative. Otherwise, I don't have to jump into that fray. I don't need the clicks. It's great if we get them.
So let me just kind of like you pin that down. So basically, like for you, it's not, it's not worth talking about until you get like outright confirmation, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, that's not related to like Matt Reeves or the Batman or anything in particular. That's just me like asking William, like, okay, like and because there's rumors fly all over the place, or about
but there's different degrees of credibility, and there's different degrees of historical references. Like if a certain source that has been historically right and credible for a very long time, and that person who's in question has used that outlet to put out news and put out backgrounds like that, that's different. But when it's just YouTubers and bloggers and that's not enough. That's not, because it's like a game of telephone. Because there are no standards, there are no editors on the internet anymore like that. It used to be when you used to get your news and stuff from credible sources, because those people could get fired if they put out bullshit. With the advent of the internet, you can put out bullshit and there not be any consequences, and nobody retracts it.
Not even necessarily bullshit, but just half truths too.
Bullshit. Yeah, half truth and bullshit they smell the same. So it's so there's nobody, when a Tom Brokaw or somebody got on the news and put something out, before he even sat down in front of that TV, that stuff had been vetted and put through and sourced and out there to the point where it was ironclad. And if guess what? If there was a chink in that armor and something happened, somebody got fired. That there's no standards like that. You could literally right now, we could literally start some bullshit on the internet. And if we had enough people that could push it along, by the end of a 48-hour period, that bullshit basically becomes fact, because nobody has the discipline to fact check stuff. They got to be first. They got to get the click. They got to put it on the thumbnail. That's all more important than it being 100%. And even if it's a half truth, okay, a half truth is the other side of that could be half disinformation. And we've shit in the pool that we want to swim in as far as our conversation goes. So like I said, I'd rather be last. I'd rather be the last guy to know that it's okay. Well, damn. And guess what, guys? Guess what? Even if I find out it's true, because it's not a news show per se, then I don't even have to talk about it then. I talked about what we opened up our topic. Topics is different from news, because that topic directly affects a lot of things that we watch. But you know what? Matt Reeves, if Matt Reeves has a personal issue that takes him off of Batman, that's not news to me. You know what's news to me? If they are continuing to make the movie and who his replacement is. I will wish him all the well with his personal issues. That's not Sci-Fi Center news. It has nothing to do with anything else. The person my focus will shift on whoever takes his place if that happens. But once again, now we're speculating on bullshit that we don't even know how much of it is true. So you see how the conversation goes?
Rhea says we can talk about Bigfoot and aliens all night, but not speculation.
Yeah, we can do that.
And by the way, she says she's joking.
I know she's joking, but you see the damage done. I mean, it's gotten to the point where I have a finite circle of YouTube shows that I watch, because I can't stand the other shit. Because it's based on you can tell when your conversation goes on and on the foundations that it began on by the rhetoric of the conversation. And I'm like, I listen, I don't have millions of followers, but what I can bring to this, to the conversation that we choose to have on a nightly basis, all I can do is have the conversations I would want to be a part of. And I don't want to be a part of the TMZ stuff. I mean, sometimes it overlaps, but like I said, some of the stuff, and when it comes to somebody's personal whatever, I am only going to report on how it affects the outcome. Is there a change in direction in the Batman as far as how it was approached? Now that's news, but we would have to get that replacement. We would have to find out that this was true, and then we would have to find out who it was, what their writing style is. That part is news, because that is content that is directly affecting the content going forward. Everything else is I hate to use the word sleaze, but it's not relevant to the quality of the discussion and what we're talking about. I mean, and like I said, and if other shows want to do that, more power to them. I'm not going to tell anybody else how to do their show, but I'm just going to do mine my way.
Here's Aaron in the final line between rumor and speculation.
Yeah, and it's called discipline. And a lot more times out of 10, we just don't, as a community, don't have the discipline to not, to see that line. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
All right, what else he's got for us tonight? Drogo's like, any news on Blade?
Okay, I should ban you just because you had your warning last night. There's a way you can talk about rumors in hypothetical sense without describing them as doctrine. No, because the leash is very short. Because if you don't know the parameters of what is bullshit and what is not bullshit, how do you know where to take the conversation? Especially when you have multiple people involved in the speculation. You're literally in the dark trying to navigate through a maze. So unless you know the parameters of what is bullshit and what is not, then there's really you talking about the rumors. Just it starts to it starts you down somewhere where you don't know where to go. It's like we're saying we're going on a field trip to somewhere. We don't know where the fuck we're going. So why even load up the car? You know what I mean? I think more times it just does damage. It just does damage, and it just And I looked at the show. I watch our shows. I watch some of our older shows, and I've done my best, to be honest with you. I hope you guys can notice it, to refine from that. I try to avoid that like the plague. Sometimes you're right. It is unavoidable. But if the discipline is knowing when to avoid it. And if I don't know, listen, it's okay not to know. It's okay for you guys to post something in the chat like that, and I don't know about it because I haven't heard about it from a source that I consider to be reliable. And it's okay for me to say, I don't know, and I'd rather not expound on it. It might disappoint some people, but I think it's better for the show, than the alternative. I do not. Like I said, here's what I mean. This is something we may not ever approach. Whatever Matt was dealing with or not dealing with, it ultimately could lead to the Batman Part 2. We don't know. See, there's too much we don't know. And when you don't, like I said, what have I always said? In the gaps of information that you don't have, it's easy to shovel in bullshit to fill in the cracks. It's real easy. And I'd just rather not do that. Let's see. At some point, yes, Rhea. At some point, you have to, even with rumors and speculation, you have to get to a point, and that point is not fresh out of the information stream that may or may not be true. At some point, where the smoke and the fire meet, yes, but once again, the discipline is knowing where that is. For me to talk about something I haven't even heard of yet, I haven't even heard from a source yet, or any source, I don't even know who the sources are yet. To me, William, that's irresponsible. If we're still talking about this next week, and now we have insurmountable things coming from, and it's just too much, then we can sit back and see how we want to approach it. Once again, with discipline. But for me to shoot off my mouth right now about something I don't even know where the information came from, I literally may as well put on a donkey costume and host this show as a jackass. So at some point, yeah, because I'll give you an example. Like when we're talking about Warner Brothers situation, we've been talking about Warner Brothers situation being what it is. Now, we had no direct insight on them splitting up or possibly splitting up. We just looked at what was out there credibly enough to be able to piece it together. Nobody made an official announcement, but there's enough factual based stuff out there that you can start putting things together and having some. But when it's just a rumor, when it says, and we don't know where the rumor came from, and then it's like, and then nobody, when the stuff ends up being bullshit, nobody comes out and says it. We still believe those when we've been led as fans the wrong way so many times. Then none of those people who lead us the wrong way ever come back and say, oops. They just put something else out and everybody believes them, even though they were clearly fucked up the last time. So, like I said, I will be the show with minuscule followers. I that's fine. That's fine. But I want to be very careful about, when we talk about things like that, especially at this point in the game. At this point, whatever this Matt Reeves news is, it's too early for it to be on this show without potentially making us look stupid. No, not really. When the Blade talk is going to be appropriate? When they announce something happening with Blade.
Oh, actually, speaking of Blade,
I saw your dumb post.
Yeah, well, I'm going to share it because there is literally.
You shared it on Twitter.
There is literally no counter argument to this.
Dump you because no one's going to waste the time to engage the argument, Brad.
There is no possible way to counter argue this.
Anyway, Manzano, with Warner Brothers, Disney, and Universal basically giving their cable networks up to focus on movies and streaming, do you think?
Yeah, this little bit.
Do you think that it works for a cable company or a streaming? Okay.
Do you think? Yeah, you might have to retype this, Anthony, because we're getting a little bit.
Warner Brothers, Disney, and Universal basically giving up their cable networks up to focus on movies and streaming. Do you think?
I think he's asking us that benefit a cable company or streaming service more, or like who does that benefit? I think that's what he's asking.
Well, both. The smaller company that is basically the networks has less pressure because they don't have to be part of supporting a massive overhead that consumes all the company. For the company that is the streamer in the studio, it's better because they no longer have that drag on their revenue. They're two separate companies now. So instead of dragging each other down, they have separated, and now they can fly independently and be able to either consume another company or potentially be consumed by another company and enrich and increase the value of the company. All right. I haven't watched the last episode. I'm a week behind on Last of Us.
Actually, I don't think I've seen more than I haven't even seen the whole first season, so I can't even comment on the show at all.
I'm behind. That's why I decided not to do a watch along of it because I just didn't have the time. Why do Disney want people to be bigger than it always is? Because fans want everything to be that way. But if Disney doesn't want it, Disney's consolidating, especially when it comes to their motion picture stuff and the thing. They're consolidating to the things that make the money. And you also got to realize that Disney, that's not even their top revenue draw. Their parks are $38 billion annually is pulled in by their parks. So yeah, the IPs that they farm from Marvel and all these help, but even before the MCU was a thing, Disney was still pulling in 26 to 28 billion annually on their parks. And that's always going to be the situation for Disney. So they're in a different situation. All right. Let's see. I don't want Comcast. I don't know Comcast. Like I said, Comcast is one of the ones that are spinning off these companies. So they may not want to. They're not going to be the ones that purchase another company like that. They're doing this to get out of there. Braden, when WBD and their investor call David Zaslav cites strong slate across all studios, nods to Superman Landers 10-year plan. That's still the plan. I don't know who's going to be instituting the plan because I don't know who's contracted and guaranteed to be there at a certain point. That includes Zaslav himself. You can say it. Somebody else can come along and take over a 10-year plan, I guess, but I don't. When you say 10-year plan to me, I'm like, okay, cool. We're going to take this one movie at a time because I don't know if the guy who's speaking of the 10-year plan is not going to ride off on a golden yacht after he takes the payoff. I don't know if the guy who's orchestrating the 10-year plan and James Gunn will want to or be around after the first set of movies, after, beyond his guarantee. I don't know. There's been no announcement of. Everybody tells me there's no way they would fire James Gunn. I'm like, you're mentally not, making the connection when you're talking about this, because all these people are here because somebody got fired. David Zaslav is here because somebody got dismissed. James Gunn has the head of a studio because the people who were running DC movies didn't do anything. So,
and that's putting it generously.
To assume that these people are just going to be there because a fan thinks they're going to be there, that's ludicrous. Contracts and transactions, those are what guarantee whether, what people, it's what you negotiate. If James Gunn has negotiated a certain amount of guarantees and time and money into his existence at DC, then that's how long we're going to be here. But once again, I'm not sure that, just speculating, But now, if you do have a smaller company, somebody could buy up that company. And if that person comes in and says, you know what, I now own Warner Brothers, whatever the hell this is, this new company, because it's probably not going to be Warner Brothers Discovery, since the Discovery channels are going to be the ones that get spun off. So if it's Warner Brothers, Warner Max, or whatever it's called, and they decide, you know what, we got a different road, none of these people, they could have their own infrastructure that comes in and says, you know, here we go. We don't know. We don't know. So 10-year plan to me, hey, I would love for James Gunn, to be honest with you, to get what Zack Snyder didn't get. Just because Zack Snyder didn't get it doesn't mean I want to screw James Gunn out of that stability, because screwing James Gunn out of that stability is screwing me and any other fan out of that stability. I already know how that feels. I don't want that for anybody else, and I don't want that again. So 10-year plan, I hope, hey, you know what? I don't have a lot of time to be fucking around with starting over again. So I really want this to stick, and so that I can enjoy it. Because to be honest with you, in 6 and 7 years from now, I don't want to be dealing with something unless James Gunn's universe has ran its course in that time. I don't want any more abrupt changes. I'm tired of that shit. You know, I wasted 7, 8, 9, 10 years of my life. You know, I don't want to do that again. So I hope this is stable enough. I hope in 10 years we're rolling out something like that, wrapping it up a Kingdom Come thing, and James Gunn would be 70-something years old, and he's done, and he seamlessly hands it off to the next generation and the next set of people the way it's supposed to be done. So who knows? So we don't know. Hope it works out. The Last of Us. See, I can't even speak on this because this last episode I did not watch. So, but it's on my Max. I will be watching it. That's another thing. I don't do the scooping thing. If that's what you do, guys, if you are a scooper or you like scoopers and that's what you're like, hey, listen, more power to you. That's not what we do. That's not what we do. It's just, you know, I don't even like to bring up the stuff that they talk about unless it's been underscored by somebody that's like, okay, now this is something that we can't avoid. When we get something on our show and we talk about it, if you notice, it's generally when it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. And at the point it has become unavoidable, that means it's been backstopped by a lot of credible sources at that point.
Yeah, Mighty Rax says Warner wouldn't fire Gunn in fear with Disney renewing his contract. I don't know. I mean, it's like
that's not. Like, I hear what you're saying, Mighty Rax, but that's not going to mean something. Like, yeah, if I bought Warner Brothers Media, Warner Max, which I should have came. Say I buy with Warner Max, right? If you don't get to the point where you can purchase something like that unless you're confident in the people that you have around you and yourself, you're not going to look at something like that to be coveted. You may or may not. You may have a Nolan level guy. You may have a Spielberg level guy that you eat lunch with and golf with every day that you're bringing with you. And as much as I love James Gunn and his work, if I have a Spielberg level guy, or if I have a Denis Villeneuve guy, somebody of that ilk, somebody in that era, then I am confident enough that the guy I'm bringing with me is going to be good enough. You purchased this company because you were confident that you could change it for the better. So no, I don't think a new, now Warner themselves maybe, but a somebody who's acquiring them. But here's the thing: we don't know who Warner is going to be at this point. Even if they don't split up and divest themselves, people get old, they retire, they move on. Other people take over, and those people have different visions. So I don't want to speculate on something like that because it could change on a dime. So yeah, I wouldn't say wouldn't or never or anything like that, because it could happen. We could wake up to anything happening. I don't know what Superman's going to do. If somebody has a number in their head that's ridiculous and Superman doesn't reach that number, I don't know what some unknown blue-haired hedge fund grandma is going to be like, put pressure on people to be like, this is not enough money for us. There's a whole host of things that could go on. That's why I'll be so happy when July 11th rolls around and one way or another, we see where we're going. We're going to either get a great movie or a great response from the movie from the hedge fund guys, and then they're going to stand on it, and we're going to be like, okay, I can look forward to multiple seasons of Green Lantern. I can look forward to all these other things. But until I get that reaction from those people, I don't know I don't know where we're going to be on July 20th. As far as like how this movie is going to be accepted, not just by fans, but by the people who decide whether this gets another second or not. In fact, that's the more concern. I have more concern about those guys than I do about fans. Are just going to be fans, but fans don't decide whether a movie is going to be in that respect. whether a movie is going to be funded or not. You know, the hedge fund people and the CEOs and the board members, they can pull the plug a lot faster than a fan can. So I got to see where we're at, how this movie hits, and then because, like I said, if I don't get Lantern, fuck everything. If I the most apprehensive person about the DCU is being drawn into the point where I'm getting my hopes up about something I think I'm really going to enjoy, and the corporate people respond in a way where I don't get a sufficient amount of that, I'm just not going to waste my time anymore. I think I will have given it a fair chance, but if they're not going to give it a fair chance and they got crazy ass expectations, then that's not on me. All right, let's see. Yeah, and I'm really careful. Listen, this will, by the way, 53 of you watching across all of our platforms, thank you for being here at 12:43 at night. Brick by brick, Lego brick by Lego, grain of salt by grain of salt, I'm trying to build the conversation that I want to have. Not necessarily the one that's the most popular one, not necessarily the one that gets the most click, but the same type of conversation I would have if you stepped into my place of business, or if we sat at a Starbucks at a Comic-Con, or if I recognize that you have a certain shirt on of an IP or something of music that I like, I want to have the same conversations here that I would have there. And I don't always have to be right. I don't always have to be first. It just has to be fun. We can have fun conversations, but once we pee in the pool with shaky shit, then it's not fun anymore. And I've watched channels literally that I started watching and thought were cool. And as that pee started to rise to the surface of the pool, I'm like, I got to get out of this pool. So I don't want to become that. And I'm working really hard to, we don't always make it out. Sometimes the stuff it slips in, but I really want to connect with our audience on a way that we connect with our audience. That's why I hate when people compare me to other shows and other streamers. Listen, go to those streamers, go to those shows if you want that kind of stuff. This is the one we're having here.
Here's one from Aaron. William, how was that AEW? While you're answering that, I'm real quick.
It would be AEW would go with the streamer. AEW is in wherever HBO Max goes, and that's where the studios would go. AEW's deal is locked in with them. So now what would end up happening is as far as their linear TNT and TBS stuff, Warner Brothers Max or whatever they become would still produce content for them. They would still probably have a working relationship no matter who bought the company. So you would have AEW, you would have a deal in place to where before there was any split, there would be guarantees that certain programming is being purchased by whatever that new company is. So I think AEW would be in a good spot. I think they would be in a much better spot too. Well, I remember AEW streams on Max now. Yeah, they're on TV too, but they stream on Max. Max is going to be the Acre IP, so they would have to make a deal. There would be a deal in place if TBS and TNT spun off into something else. They would have to purchase that content or license that content, which would be more money for everybody, to be honest with you. Tony Khan, more money for them. Let's see. If the movie bombs, they can easily fix the timeline after Superman makes Flashpoint at Ezra Miller. I don't think you're ever going to get. Be honest with you, I don't think you're ever getting the Steinerverse restored. I think the best case scenario is on some format somewhere you may get a resolution and an end to it. I be honest with you, as time goes on, I all I really want is to get the full unabridged, unabbreviated story out there. That's why I personally prefer papers and staples and comic books. And the reason why is because you get every single bit of the story out there. You leave nothing behind. And at that point, somebody else can adapt it. If somebody wants to do Lego Dark Side War, there they go. Somebody wants to do a cartoon, they have something to base it on. Because I think with the absolute universe, when it comes to Batman, absolute Superman, and those things, you are going to get something on another platform, a cartoon or a movie or something out of the absolute universe, absolute DC. You have a stronger case because with the numbers that absolute DC does, you have a stronger case for something to appear in live action cartoon or otherwise with absolute DC than you ever will the continuation of the restoration of the Snyderverse. So, and that's because of what absolute DC has done on paper. You give Zack Snyder's storyline an opportunity to put numbers up on paper. Now you have irrefutable proof that there is still desirability out there for this IP. Otherwise, you don't have anything. And that's the thing I hate telling my fellow friends that like that content is that right now we have nothing. We have nothing to walk into a CEO's office and say, hey, I want you to restore this. I want you to resume this. Based on what? I don't have anything. It's my desire. I don't have anything. But if I walk in there with 450,000 copies sold of the Nightmare, whatever you want to call it, then now I have data behind me. You know, and if issues 2 and 3, you know, are selling right around the same thing for the price of making a comic, now I got something. But me just strolling into the office, you should restore this based on what? And this is somebody who supports you. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. On what data do you want me to spend one more dime on this? So, you know, that's why I don't think we're ever going to get it, because you got an awful lot of people too that are like, well, live action or nothing, and we're probably going to get nothing with that mindset. I'm telling you, you put the papers and staples on for comic book characters. My goodness, heaven forbid we do that. You make a strong case there, you can go anywhere you want. Let's see. Yeah, you can see where it's coming from. Especially if the water is really clear. It's not even a compromise. You don't have anything to compromise. See, when you say you don't compromise, you have to be speaking of a position of where you a power or a position of favor. What do you have nothing that we have nothing to bargain with. We have nothing to even get into the conversation with. You're not compromising anything because you have nothing. We're at ground zero right now. We're at less than zero right now in regards to any type of momentum. You're not compromising anything. You have to actually have something to compromise something. We have nothing. We have nothing to compromise with. You have nothing to negotiate with, nothing to bargain with. You damn sure don't have anything to compromise with. You have nothing. So, yeah, I mean, you know, let's see. Let's see.
Says the 2B is getting bigger. Yeah, they are getting bigger.
I mean, Warner Brothers, and to be honest with you, if they were to spin off their companies, they could license. You could have somebody consume one of those small companies and say, you know what, I'm going to pay you a certain amount of money to do a Batman TV show that is our thing. And you know what? If the price is right, they and you know, depending on what kind of revenue they're bringing in, they say, you know, you'll have fans say they would never do that because we only have one brain cell, so we can only focus on one thing at a time, and they can only do one thing at a time. No. All right.
The fans saying that only have one brain cell.
These guys are going to make money where there's money to be made. All right. The people who do this are not like us. All right. Their jobs are on the line. So, yeah. No, you can't license something that's not licensable. That's not licensable.
Well, they would have to, you know, reverse the whole write-off to even do that.
And once again, I want people to ask themselves if the people who've seen it and paid for it and stand to profit from it, if it were that, you know, type of thing, what do you know that they don't know? And you can't always tie it. Well, then if they said that about the Snyder, not everything is Zack Snyder's Justice League. I know that's hard for some of you guys to understand. I know that is a monumental concept that not everything's a fucking conspiracy. I know that's a novel concept. So if the people who stand to make the money off of it and would have their asses on the line for it and would have to answer for it, who have seen it, whether you like them or disagree with them or agree with them, do you know more about the project than they do? Because unless you were in the room, then you're outside of the room. So I always wonder, I'm like, you either, like I said, it's okay not to know something. So the fact that that they did that, and to be honest with you, numbers wise, when they did it for Coyote and Acme and all those other things, they did it for different reasons, by the way. Financially, they were right. They ended up being right. Nobody brings that up, by the way. When we look at the numbers of some of these things that are being spent on, they didn't get them. What's their face didn't get their money back from that. Ketchup didn't get their money back from the blew up the world thing, did they? I'm pretty sure they broke even or lost money. So it's okay when it's somebody else's money, though. I guess I don't know. Okay, all right, hey guys, stop with the Israeli and the Jewish stuff in the chat. There's plenty of other places on the internet to talk about that. This is a place where people on all ends of that conflict can come and just be geeks. Please cease that. There are people that are occurring on this conversation that I would hate to time out. So please just take this warning and leave that somewhere else.
I will agree with Forth, though. She is the best thing about it.
I have not seen Snow White, so I'm going to leave that up to you guys. My top C, Elseworld. Kingdom Come.
Well, I mean, pick one, yeah, of course. Take a wild guess. Kingdom
Come. If I were going to do I would like to see the Nightmare Story in an Elseworld. And I've already seen the other one. The Batman's is an Elseworld story. So right now, those would be my top ones. So
are you asking need to happen or need to be finished, or that we've already seen some portion of that we just need to we want to see its entirety, or this?
I would like to see Legion of Superheroes handled in an Elseworld because I think Legion of Superheroes needs to be an alternate timeline so that the potential future of Legion of Superheroes is technically would be an Elseworld. So okay.
Let's see what we got here. Let's see what he's got for us. Well, I can see Bell definitely didn't like Snow White.
Oh, I didn't go. Like I said,
he said Gall saved the movie. Well, I mean, we're definitely not the target audience for it here, William and I. But I did see it. I came out of it kind of like the same reaction I had for Captain Marvel, which is it's like all this controversy for a movie that's just that is that flat. Come on. But it is what it is. It's not I'm not the audience for that. Yeah, you lost me at Snow White. I mean, but the only I will say, and not just that's Snow White, but also of the Disney fairy tale remakes, the only one I've really liked so far has been Aladdin, and but otherwise they've been. God, Lion King just bored the hell out of me.
Yeah, you generally will lose me at Disney, and if it's not Disney Marvel or Disney Star Wars, and I'm pretty much out of it. It's okay. Someone said you look like trans. Okay. They made a pass, you shot them down, and then is that what they came back with? Or I doubt that was sincere. I'm just saying that out there. I'm like, what? Anyway, all right. I think yeah, like I said, Cleopatra, none of these stuff. All right, well, hey, after going completely off the rails the last two nights, I think we've covered everything. I don't think we have much to expand on. And That's it. We covered that. Like I said, covered kind
I
of.
mean, unless you guys want to talk about 100 people fighting a gorilla one more time.
No.
Shoot, I think we covered cleared the board on all that pretty well last night.
Should have passed that one up last night.
No, that made it probably one more. That made it one more probably more hilarious. Strangely done because it turned to like this big again like zoological Mortal Kombat discussion because it's like okay, well then it's like well what if a kangaroo fought a reindeer or what if you ran into a moose?
All right, guys, you're gonna know that I most likely have not or will never see a particular movie if the term Disney princess is part of it.
Yeah,
that's almost 100%. I see some stuff in the chat that's almost 100%. That's a never fail. That you really don't even need to ask me if I've seen it. If it has a Disney princess in it, there's a good chance that I haven't seen it, nor will I ever see it. And I don't think that the stuff that Fox and Hulu does will ever merge in that respect. So I don't have to worry about Cinderella and the Predator or whatever. So I'm pretty safe there. So you can pretty much safely assume that if the movie in question has a Disney princess in it, that I have not or nor will I ever see it. So save you some time. Let's see. I want to see William versus 100 burgers. Well, I've eaten 100 burgers in my entire life.
That is a good matchup, though. I will say.
I'm glad that you're a journalist and not a comedian because you would go broke and starve trying to be funny. Let's see.
I mean, we can all agree. Like William versus 100 burgers. That'd be a good one, wouldn't it? That'd be a good like matchup.
Nah.
Is he talking about the show? I think he's talking about the series.
All right. So now, not since I was a kid.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I mean, I don't think I have either.
I was never really. I mean, we went to Disneyland. We watched some stuff as a family, but you got to realize this is the same family that went to horror movies together. So Disney, the Mouse and the Duck, really didn't have a grasp on me like it did other people when I was growing up.
Actually, I think I do have an answer for that question. The last thing I saw Mickey Mouse in was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And
that's like 35 years ago.
And also that's interesting too because that has like all the animated characters from disparate companies in it. So that must have been like it's kind of like what you talk about like it's not like a one-to-one, but like studios licensing things to other entities. I mean, they would have had to get like licensing deals like for like because that's what studio did that? That was I think it was Touchstone, which is a Disney subsidiary. So they had Disney animated characters, they had Warner Brothers animated characters, so they had to like work out some kind of brokerage deal to like license characters they didn't have the rights to for that.
Oh, they do it all the time. Question: at what point? This is wow. You heard it in my head with these questions. At what point in the future for Marvel do we see a character like Neymar? We've seen him, and Tolakan. We've seen that showing up again. Real soon. Avengers, both Avengers movies. He's going to be in both Avengers. He'll probably be one of the newer Avengers that it gets assembled. So no, you'll probably see him in Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four has a rich history with Neymar. Him trying to bang Sue Richards. Now her Sue almost leaving Reed for him. So yeah, there's a complicated relationship there. How to Train Your Dragon. The closest I'm going to get to that is the trailer. All right, guys. Now we're starting to talk about things that I'm like, what is going on with no, I think it's one of the most boring movies ever made. I think I would literally, like I said, that is one of the slowest, most boring. I put that in the Shining category as far as like.
Well, I don't because I love The Shining.
What can I do to get myself out of this type of situation? Yeah, those are boring.
I love The Shining.
No, somebody was trolling me when I was live. Somebody said you look like listen, and this is nothing against people who live the trans lifestyle. But if you've seen Belle, I'm not thinking that. But then again, there are some, be honest with you. There are some, that because we host burlesque events. And I've had burlesque dancers that were trans, and that I would not have known, but they told me because they didn't want to be, they didn't, hey, I had this, and I'm like, okay. They had a following, they come in and do your thing. But this person, unless she told me,
You wouldn't have guessed.
there's no, and when she told me, I was like, you're fucking with me. You're fucking with me because you done, wow. And she came in, she had a huge following of everybody who knew, damn, I just, because like I said, we just signed acts out of the blue. And I'm like, because so not everybody has a different appearance and how they approach it. But, I would lose on a bet.
I saw Forth put one about this earlier. Brad, we could use your kung fu expertise. I had to film a Dragon Ball fight scene for a fan film pretty damn hard. I'm not the Dragon Ball guy. But like my friend Mike or Aaron, like really knows Dragon Ball. So it's like I don't know. I think they probably could have been more assistance to you on that one. It's like I've never been a Dragon Ball guy, unfortunately. If you were Avatar, I probably could have helped you.
Zelda, when it first came out, I played it, but I just never got big into it.
Yeah, I didn't really either.
No, yes, I did. I saw the Old Guard trailer.
I have not seen I've seen the first movie, but I have not seen the trailer for the second one. I got to be honest, like I thought the first one was kind of overhyped. I was not blown away by the first one.
Well, I thought it was what it was. I thought for the format it was released on, I'm like, okay. I would rather see Atomic Blonde too than that.
Yeah, because it also dropped during the early days of COVID, and we're all stuck at home. Like with all we got is just Netflix. All we got at that point is like we got to stay inside because there's a plague outside. So it's like okay, we got Netflix still.
I thought Olgar was exactly what it was supposed to be for where exactly it was.
And that was Greg Rucka who wrote that, wasn't it?
I can't remember. It's been.
I think it was that was Greg Rucka.
Oh, William here's a sci-fi movie from when you were a kid that you came out. Blade Runner. Easy. Blade Runner came out 2 generations too soon because it took 2 generations for people to really appreciate. Even though people who understand movie making and anime and art and all that kind of stuff, they saw Blade Runner and what was in Blade Runner. And if you look at what it influenced, but the general public, I thought Blade Runner was 2 generations ahead of what it could have potentially been. I think if it was released now, it would be an instant classic that would have probably done well.
Yeah, he did. He wrote. He wrote the Old Guard. And it's like his comic book work I've usually enjoyed, but it's like the Old Guard just didn't really. I remember seeing that really hyped up at the time.
It didn't disappoint, but it didn't shoot off the screen for me either.
I remember one. I've ever seen a few people at the time compliment fight choreography and
I didn't start hearing about fight choreography until you came on my screen. I just took it for granted. I never knew or cared who did the fight choreography. I just remember just the people that are doing it are good enough as martial artists to just do it.
I remember seeing some of the their reactions to it, saying, "Oh, this is some of the best I've seen this year." It's like, okay, come over. I can show you some. You want to see something like the real deal? It's like I just pick something right off the shelf right there. Just
I just figure it was just another way of doing stunts. Is how I feel about it. But I saw the director's cut of Vietnam movie that Stanley Kubrick. Are you talking about a Full Metal Jacket? Because after the first 20 minutes of Full Metal Jacket, I turned it off. After the drill sergeant is killed, after the Kingpin, D'Onofrio kills himself and the drill sergeant, I'm done with the movie.
Oh yeah, Aaron, I saw shows. Yeah, for those of you who didn't see,
stop being an ass kiss. No, I'm just kidding.
I shared. What? I had an article on Kung Fu Kingdom go live. I interviewed Jude Poyer, who's the stunt coordinator on Havoc, the new Netflix movie with Tom Hardy that Gareth Evans, director of.
Who?
Did the stunt coordinator of Havoc? Directed by the director of The Raid. So that was a real pleasure talking to him.
Okay, now you just made my case of why we don't do Kung Fu on the channel. Simple because who? That's so out of context. That's why you and the Aussie there need to get an hour to talk about this stuff in context for as long as your heart's desire. Because you just throw some shit out there. It will be like a guy in a restaurant coming out, the waiter coming out. Hey, those Swedish meatballs. The guy who who operated the machine that burned down the mill. Do you know who he? No.
William, counterpoint. William, it's like, did you know who Jude Poyer was before I mentioned him?
Okay, you know what my counterpoint is.
I rest my case.
You should be able to mouth what my counterpoint is going to be next, right?
But do
I care?
But there literally is no counterpoint because I just brought him into your life. It's like there's no counterpoint.
Nothing against this person, Jude. Whoever you are, congratulations on your success in your career. The hell.
You got to watch the two major fights in Havoc. Because it's not a martial arts flip per se. It's got enough in there where it's a big element of it.
But I'll be watching it and be like, "Oh wow, that's cool." But I'm not going to be like, "Hey, who's the guy who posed the fist and aimed the leg at the?" No, don't get into that when it comes to those type of.
William,
movies.
do you know who handled the fight choreography in the Dune movies?
Don't care.
Well, why don't you care? Because you hold those in such high esteem.
Yeah, because I hold the movie as a whole
as good as they were without
I hold the movie as a whole in a high esteem. Guess what? I like the Dune soundtrack. I don't care who the violinist in there was.
Nope. Oh, that's heartbreaking, man. No,
nope.
Not.
I can love something and not dissect it like this. Listen, until Roger Deakins came along, I really didn't give two shits about cinematography.
You know, but if everybody thought like you, we never would have gotten Chad Stahelski directing the John Wick franchise.
The people at the studios don't have to think like me. Mm. But you're talking about on this show, bringing up dude, whenever you're ready, we're going to give you your own hour. And if you to your heart's content.
All I did was I said I shared an interview I did with
and Aaron in there being your disciple.
Well, not my disciple.
Don't be trying to kiss.
No,
don't be trying to kiss up to Brad. Don't be trying to inflate Brad's ego.
That's not disciple.
You're his go-to cult member. The kangaroo cult. Okay, calling this. That's fine, and I'll get around to seeing it. But like I said, I'm not going to be like, "Ooh, wonder."
Well, it's not just the fights; it's also the chase. It's got a lot of car chases and gunplay in it too. Gareth Evans, like, for those of you who haven't seen Havoc, if you haven't seen the Raid 2 either, it's like, I mean, obviously he's most associated with with martial arts and gunplay. I'll tell you, that man's like that. Gareth Evans, he gives George Miller a run for his money as far as like doing like crazy car chases. Gareth is like he's up there.
I haven't heard enough of Macedon to be able to form an opinion. Larry Kotowski brought that band up too. We played. He sent me a link, and I haven't heard enough of them to form an opinion. So I know of them, but there are certain bands that I know of that I don't have enough listening history to be like, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. You know, I'm familiar. There's a difference between familiar and then listening to them. So get back to me, maybe at some point in our lives, Antonio or Anthony, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, of course, like woo-wee. Yes, you are. Yes, you definitely are.
Yeah, and I'm going to watch them, and I'm going to enjoy them, and then I'm going to hit stop, and I'm going to go into something else.
There's one in particular, and you probably already guessed which one it is, where, like, when it happened, like, the whole thing played through, and, like, when it ended, I didn't even, like, watch the rest of the movie. I was like, I got to watch this fight scene again, like, rewind and, like, watch the whole thing again.
Anyway, Bob,
hey, Gareth needs red nose. You know what he should do for that, Aaron? He should get, like, there's one... I can't remember his name.
Wow, I wonder what guy we're gonna bring up.
There's one dude from Australia. It's like I can't. His name escapes me, but Gareth should grab him too.
This is like stalkerish obsession with this dude.
It's not stalkerish. It's siblingish.
No, it's just stalkerish. You and this. It's just stop. Clockwork Orange is a classic. It's offensive, but it's a classic. Gangs of
I've heard. I think that's the one thing. That and Apostle, the horror movie he did. That's the only work of Garrett's I have not seen yet.
Sounds like cancellation to me. Did a show on that.
Kenneth S. Hey guys, you seen another Team movie? I think it's really good back in 2000s. It was the game. Yeah, I've seen it. It was horrible because it's a spoof movie.
Isn't that the one where the girls walking around the campus naked?
Yeah,
like
that.
literally like a whole scene.
Yeah,
for no
no,
reason.
they have the one character. I mean, the characters all that has the cover where like it lists like each like kind of stereotype. Like this is like the desperate version. This is the token, and they have that in the trailer. The token black guy, as he's called, says, "I'm just here to say like, damn, and that is whack."
Yeah, because that's what we would be doing. We're not. That's not token because you had to have the token black guy in these movies when they were written that way. You know why? And I've explained it 1,000 times because we don't do that shit. Okay, we city folks, which is listen, we're only 13% of the population. Like Chris Rock said, black folks are only in like Detroit, LA. I mean, we're only in, so we're concentrated in certain parts of the.
No,
and,
Chris
we
Rock,
don't
Chris Rock has,
do.
yeah, Chris Rock has a great joke about it. Like I forget what Stan Back he said to something, but he said it was something like, yeah, because of course a lot of his material is like is race related, and he. I think this is I wish I could. I need to like look up like which one this is pulled from specifically, but it was the gist of it was like first of all there aren't even that many black people in the country. It's like New York, DC, LA, Chicago, Atlanta, like 10 places. That's it.
Yeah. So we're not camping. There are some there's black folks that fish or black folks that camp. I don't know any of them. Okay, so I am not going to the house next door if people have been killed in it. If there was an ambulance in a coroner's van outside the neighbor's house and somebody there invites me for a sleepover, guess what? I respectfully have to decline. So when we're driving down to a place that we know people have died and we just keep going, all right, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We can stay in the hood and watch people die outright.
Yeah,
we don't need that. We have a chance because guess what? If you don't hang out in certain circles, you're all right. But if you go out to the place where the killer is, that's not smart. We ain't doing that. So, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I like it about as much as I do the Scary Movie franchise. We all know, everybody in our audience knows how I feel about that. The film is proof that Chris Evans looks. Yeah, that's when he was. That was before he was even the Human Torch. That was when he was just starting out. And talk about like I mean he definitely went on to far better things. Not another teen movie. Fourth. Oh, Aaron, guys, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Two black guys weren't allowed to be on the screen at the same time. That's it. Oh yeah.
Drunk. Is that the one with Chris that was whipped cream on him? Yes, it is. Oh man, I hate that. I hate spoof. Like I hate modern spoof movies. Like the last one, I can't. The last one I can remember enjoying was Dracula Dead and Loving It. Which I think was the last thing that Mel Brooks.
That was stupid.
No, it's hilarious. Just the part where like Renfield are at the lunch table. He's like he's grabbing bugs off the table and like snatches a spider out of the air.
Horrible.
I
went camping years ago when I was a Boy Scout. I went camping with a version of the Boy Scouts called the U.S. Army, and I didn't like it then, so I'm not a camper. Let's see. I've been a huge fan of Kyler Leigh since Grey's Anatomy. She's a really good actress and recent series. The Way Home from Hallmark Channel. Ooh, wow. What a Kenneth, I listen, dude. I love you, man. I think you got the wrong channel here. Hallmark Channel. What? Grey's Anatomy. And I know who Andy McDowell is. Andy McDowell is Margaret Qualley's mother.
Yeah, she's Michael Keaton's wife, also in Multiplicity. That's the main thing I know.
One of the dumbest fucking movies that you will ever see.
That's another hilarious one where he clones himself 3 times.
Stupid movie. Hallmark Channel. They still have a Hallmark Channel? Okay. Like I said, I don't know who is Kyler Leigh.
The Hallmark Channel. It's not even going to be an event. We're like within the next year, we're going to hear about. It's like it's going to be like just called Hallmark. It's going to be a streaming platform. It's going to happen to it.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Denzel's not just paired with a white actor though. In most cases, he is the top bill though. Like Training Day, you ain't going to Training Day to see Ethan Hawke.
Well, like same thing you said with Gladiator 2 last year. Was like he's not the protagonist, but he definitely
he drives that movie. He should have gotten nominated for that role.
And he again didn't even bother. Like it's like everybody else, like ancient Rome's like puts on like a British accent to.
He's got Brooklyn. Crimson Tide. I mean, he's on screen with Gene Hackman. I don't know. They both carry that movie. Glory is Matthew Broderick. That generally when Denzel's on the screen with a white guy, he's most likely carrying.
Yeah, remember the Titans, like him and Will Patton. It's like, yeah, Will Patton also. I mean, he's a lot more mellow.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be dismissive, Ken. I just don't know who this is, and I haven't watched Grey's Anatomy in ever, and I don't. Yeah, I know who Andy McDowell is, but I don't know who the rest of them are. So sorry, man.
I know. I saw you post about this, Aaron, about finally seeing the Shadow Strays on Netflix. That's one of my. That is like almost neck and neck for last year with Life After Fighting for me.
Aaron, you're cute, you're cuddly, and you're from Australia, and I have endless stereotypes that I can use on you, and you're a great sport. But we got to stop this pandering to Brad. We got to stop it. I mean, when you guys get your show, and I'm giving you your show, you can pander to Brad. You can be his squeaky from. You can be everything Brad did, but we can't we can't pander to Brad. His head can only fit in the damn screen barely as it is. So yeah, let's.
Aaron, how about that cameo at the end too? Setting up the Shadow Strays too.
Whatever.
What else you guys got here?
We're about to wrap it up because it's going to get.
Speaking of Chris Evans and looking better, older, so does Soldier Boy. Yeah. He has so that dude's also like aged magnificently. That guy's like doesn't look a day over 12.
American. Ooh, he's good. He's good in American and Gangster. I don't know. I personally I wouldn't say that's his biggest thing. Lonzo in Training Days, that guy's a motherfucker right there. That's a guy that you wanted to die. And Denzel Washington only took the role if that character ended up with a horrible death because
here's another good example.
He was a horrible
although I think he I think it's about as far as like who like dominates the screen. I think it's about neck and neck. Do you ever see Virtuosity? Where Russell Crowe's like he's like the computer program that escapes into a human body in the real world.
I tried to sit through it and I just didn't.
Well, Russell. If you want to see Russell Crowe like ham, like really go like just full ham, he's an awesome villain in that.
Thor: Love and Thunder.
No, but he's not awesome in that.
But he's hamming it. I noticed this recently with horror films, William. I need your honest answer. Why is it that the last people to always get killed in general?
In horror movies, is people got the last, or do you mean the first people to get killed?
We ain't there. What are you talking about? We're generally going to be the last ones because we stayed back. We didn't go into the cave. We didn't go into the haunted house. We didn't mess around. We wished you well when you did it. And usually if we get killed, it's because the last final girl or guy got us killed by running directly to wherever we're hiding to make a quick getaway. And guess what they bring with them? The fucking killer. And we get killed and they escape. That's probably why, Antonio.
Yeah, this is where we bring in that Simpsons narration. That's racist.
All right. Another Simpson. I haven't watched, dude. I haven't watched that show since half of our audience has been on.
Not Simpsons. Cinema Sins.
Oh,
because
they had like Simpsons. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Because Cinema Sins has the running joke of like something happens in the movie. They say that's racist, and the joke of it is like half the time it has nothing to do with racism.
Favorite, right? He's got a lot. He's got a lot. I mean, I can't answer that. I can't answer that.
Yeah, that's a sleep on it question. Yes, it does, William. Yes, it very much does.
Okay, so
it's damn hard. Oh, this sounds like a marathon. Havoc, Shadow Strays, and Kate.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have fun with that.
Yeah.
Lonzo is great, but Frank Lucas basically Godfather. Yeah, but you got. I grew up in L.A. I grew up in the area that that was depicted in Training Day, and that the LAPD and the Rampart Division costs. And that guy was a real big. Training Day is based on a real cop. He's basically on a real, who's still alive, by the way. So yeah.
Bell Riff says, yeah.
That was pointed out in Scary Movie.
No,
yeah. But that person, we get killed. We did the right thing by not doing the stupid thing, but because the stupid person is running past us, the killer's like, well, I might as well kill. I'm here. Why don't I just kill you right now? Or we're like doing this shit. What happened? Where's everybody else? And while we're doing that, that person's running past us. Here comes the killer.
Yeah,
see,
Bell.
yeah.
Bell, just know I refuse to credit the Scary Movie franchise for absolutely anything. So.
Let's see. All right, guys. I think this is going to go off the rails, and I'm hungry and I'm tired. Oh, 61 people watching at 1:22 in the morning.
Oh,
That's
guys,
nice.
you should have been like here last night. We were talking about like the whole like 100 people versus one gorilla fight.
And Moose and other kind of crazy, stupid shit. William, who are the top characters for Denzel that you hate so much that throughout his movie you just wish you'd get killed? Well, Training Day. Training Day. That's a really Training Day in Gladiator 2 because he was a slimy shyster.
Yeah.
In,
Oh man, Gladiator 2.
So.
If you haven't seen that yet, that is Denzel like Denzeling like he hasn't in years. He is a blast in it. Yeah, Brad.
There you go. There you go.
I'm leaning towards like again like I'm gonna get with you guys like pretty soon, but again because he also streams at different times than we do, so I'm leaning towards like that probably like a weekend stream probably best for that. So once I kind of get that figured out, I'll let you guys know. It could either be probably like this week or next. That's what I'm leaning towards.
I got the joke, Joga. I see what you're doing. How about his character from what?
Denzel's character? Was Denzel and Jake? Or are you confusing him with Jamie Foxx?
Are you talking about Samuel Jackson? Yeah, I wanted to slap the shit out of Samuel Jackson as Steven. I don't think he wasn't in a.
Oh, this is Droga's comment. Like Michael Jackson could have worked with Charlie Sheen. Nah.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being the most fun part of this entire internet experience. Mm-hmm. I will not be on the air tomorrow on our channel. Who knows where I'll be, but I definitely will be back on Saturday evening. One amongst the topics that we will be talking about is heavy metal because a new issue of heavy metal came out. New #1 came out. We will be rounding up issues 7 of almost every issue 7 and some 8 of the Absolute Universe. We'll do a report card of where we're at then, and then whatever comes up in between. Now and then, we still got a lot of time between that show aired. So,
well, I guess Bell rubbed in like Gladiator too.
We will talk to you when we talk to you. Please like, subscribe, share, and spread the religion. So, like I said, we're gonna grow one viewer at a time, and I want each and every viewer that we gain to be here for our conversation. We are not the other show. So the best compliment you could give me is never to compare me to them. Okay, we will see you over the weekend. Have a nice Friday.
Later, guys.